My journey started in moving to Paris with work. Since then, I had changed jobs because I'd gone to London and decided that London was great for visiting, but I preferred to live in France. I was just like, you know what? I am done with city life. And I just wanted to get to more greener spaces, get out of the city. And my plan was to go to the suburbs until a friend of mine said, for the price of that apartment, you could buy a chateau. And I said, what? And of course, curiosity got the best of me. After a few glasses of wine, I was going chateau shopping in the southwest of France. My purpose is enjoying life and being happy.
Trish, welcome. I am super, super thrilled to be talking to you.
I'm great. I'm grateful for the opportunity to have this conversation with you. Thank you.
So you went from corporate to owning a chateau, and that just sounds like a fairy tale. Can you tell us a little more about how you got there?
Sure. It's a bit of a long story, so I'll try to keep it somewhat brief. But I'm originally from the US, and I was living in Boston and working for a company that their divisional headquarters were there. And there was a new management team that had come in and wanted to move my job, along with a lot of other ones, to a different part of the country that frankly I did not want to move to. So with all of the organizational changes that were happening at the same time, I had been doing a lot of international travel for work, and I kind of had the travel bug, and thought that it would be really interesting to live overseas. So I was thinking, this might be an opportunity to see if maybe I can swing an international assignment. So I sent an email to the head of the European operation, who was based outside of Paris, and said, bonjour, Patrick, do you need any help in marketing? And to my surprise, he said, I did an expat assignment when I was younger. I see the value of, moving people, in different locations. So sure, why not? And it was supposed to be a 2-year assignment. And I ended up staying, and in fact, 2 days ago was my 16th anniversary of being in France.
16 years.
Yeah, so my journey started in moving to Paris with work. Since then, I had changed jobs because I'd gone to London and decided that London was great for visiting, but I preferred to live in France. So I came back, got another job, still in the corporate world, and then fast forward to COVID, I'm still working in a corporate environment, but obviously working remotely at this point. And I was confined to my small Parisian apartment. And I was just like, you know what? I am done with city life. And I just wanted to get to more greener spaces, get out of the city. And my plan was to go to the suburbs until a friend of mine said, for the price of that apartment, you could buy a chateau. And I said, what? And of course, curiosity got the best of me. So I started to look at, well, what kind of chateau can you buy for the price of a Parisian apartment? And around the same time, my 50th birthday was approaching, and I wanted to do this grand adventure, because this was a milestone birthday. I mean, for my 40th, I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, so I wanted to do something big for 50. But because of COVID travel restrictions, my options were limited. So I was talking with a friend of mine who actually does coaching, and so we were having virtual cocktails, and she said, "Well, let me practice some of my coaching skills on you, and get you to come up with something that you can do for your 50th birthday." And so after a few glasses of wine, I was going chateau shopping in the southwest of France.
Just like that. just like that.
Yeah, as you do, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
And if I'm honest, I was only half serious about actually buying a chateau, but I certainly was intrigued, you know. And so I set up 3 appointments, and the one I bought actually wasn't even on my list. It was another chateau that I had looked at down the road, and the real estate agent said, you know, there's another one of the same era. It's more modern, but we're here if you want to take a look at it. And I said, yeah, sure, why not? And, you know, I kind of went into it thinking, you know, all right, modern is not really my style, but I'm here, so I'll take a look. And we drove up the driveway, and I just see this gorgeous stone fortress with a tower. And I was like, this doesn't look very modern to me.
I was thinking modern must be relative.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And so we came inside, and just like you can see the stone wall behind me. I mean, it's all stone and just absolutely beautiful. It was love at first sight, and I didn't even think. I made an offer that same day. It was one of those spontaneous decisions. I mean, I take longer to decide what restaurant to have dinner at than I took to decide to buy the chateau.
So you knew it was like a knowing, like the angels singing kind of.
Yeah, yeah. The French say it was a coup de cœur, like a hit of the heart. You know, it was love at first sight. And I remember driving away and sitting at the bottom of the hill and looking up at it and thinking, if I don't do this, I'm going to regret it. And, you know, initially there was no plan. And the idea was, you know, I'll rent it out because I was still employed in Paris, but we were still working remotely. So my feeling is, you know, I'll rent it out to cover the mortgage, and I'll just rent an apartment in the Paris suburbs and use this as a vacation home. Well, turns out the bank kind of mixed up some paperwork, and they put it down as my primary residence, which means that I have to live here 8 months out of the year. So I said, you know what? When and if we go back to the office, I'll figure it out then. And I packed up and moved down here, and that was the start of 2021.
I love it. It's almost as if the universe, whatever you subscribe to, knew, right? Instead
Exactly.
of you catching up, right, in this
Yes.
reality, it's like, here's your chateau. It's gonna be your primary residence. And you know what also came to me is as you're talking about, you know, this whole process of having the idea, a friend, right? And then going, looking, getting an agent, looking at these chateaus. It's like, you know, like a kid having a magic wand. And I'm like, and your enthusiasm and your liveliness and your smiling and positive attitude, it's like all like a play.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, and I think attitude plays so much into it as well. You know, I don't look at things like this as everything that could go wrong and, oh my God, what if, what if, what if? I kind of look at it as the what if of the opportunity. Like, how cool would this be? And, you know, I'll figure it out. And if it doesn't work out, that's okay, you know, but I'll figure it out some way. And that's what I've done. I mean, it's been a lot of challenges. I mean, trust me, living in a chateau is not the life of a princess. But you make it work, you know. I look at it as an adventure.
Have you always have that lightness of your spirit, lightness, you know, of approach?
I think so. I think so. I like a good adventure. I like a good challenge, and you know, I think just keeping a positive attitude and looking at the upside side, and you know, just managing, taking the challenges step by step. Like you know, it works for me.
Yeah, and like that's exactly it. I think when we are getting bogged down with needing to know the plan A, B, C, and how it all turns out, then we will never take those steps.
Right. Right. And
And
it's not to say there's no planning involved. I mean, this was a spontaneous decision where I didn't have a plan, but when I got home and realized, this is happening, then I do go into planning mode. I mean, I love a good color coded spreadsheet. And, I just put all the details there of everything that I need to do, what to get in place, everything to move down here, working things out with my job that, I was still working remotely, so I do go into planning mode despite, the sometimes spontaneous decision.
I love it. And how about, so before you bought it, did you ever feel like you were looking for something more like you, so you were in marketing, were you ever looking for kind of alternative options for your career, for something that, or were you happy in corporate?
You know, corporate life was very good to me for a very long time. And if I'm honest, the last few years, I was kind of getting tired of, the environment that a big corporation, can create in terms of the pressure, the stress, sitting on my butt in front of a laptop for upwards of 12 hours a day, it wears on you after a while. And if I'm completely honest, I think menopause kind of played in a bit of a role. I remember a friend of mine years ago saying, like with menopause, you just give less of a shit about things. And I kind of felt that. Like I got to a point where I was no longer interested in putting in 120% in my corporate job. It was, you know what, at the end of the day, is this that critical that I need to work another 3 hours into the evening? And I started to realize, and I think moving to the countryside also did that too, because life moves at a much smaller pace than it does in the US or in Paris. I mean, I live in a village that literally has more sheep than people. I mean, life is very different here than what I was used to. And I think slowing down, stopping to smell the roses, almost in a literal sense, um, it just kind of gave me a new perspective, and COVID did as well. I mean, I think that changed a lot of us in a way. So I just kind of started thinking, I would like to do something a little bit different. I mean, I loved my career in marketing and I learned so much, and I'm so grateful for all the opportunities that I had. But towards the end, I was ready for something a little bit different. And then again, opportunity struck. I mean, there were a bunch of layoffs that were being announced, and my role was affected. And that was a blessing. It gave me the opportunity to go and start a business hosting small group retreats, and I'm having a ball doing that.
Thank you so much for sharing. And the reason I wanted to ask, and I appreciate your honesty because so many people feel that way, are going through, right, layoffs, and not only layoffs, but really looking and evaluating how they are living their life, what they're living or giving their life force to, how they're actually feeling. This kind of what you said, this artificial stress, this artificial kind of running yourself, um, in the name of what, right? And are you really living a life of your own making or building somebody else's dream? So I really appreciate you sharing, because sometimes it can feel like you're the only one, especially when you're still with the company, right? Everybody's, kind of still doing the dance. You see your friends in the same structure. And that's another reason why it's so amazing to have these conversations with people who have created something different, right? Went from this and now it's something so out of the box. So, what happened? So, what are you doing now? Tell us a little more about, um, kind of what are you doing in the chateau, and what happened after the layoff? How did you navigate to getting where you're at right now?
Well, after the layoff, well, in the run up to the layoff, I mean, I knew that this was going to happen, for some time before it did. So I was able to kind of get my ducks in a row and determine, what type of business structure that I was going to have and how I was going to operate things. And it's kind of evolved. I'm learning along the way, but I live in a 14th century chateau that used to be King Henry IV's hunting lodge, from what I understand. So if you're a history buff, that in itself is interesting. It's a tiny chateau. It's actually an old fortress, and there's only 5 bedrooms, one of which is mine. So I wanted to host small group retreats where I would bring together, mostly women, but I'm not only focused on women. I do some events that do welcome men as well. But and also solo travelers that just want to go and discover a region, because I live in this little valley called the Vallée d'Ossau, and it's just this beautiful place at the foot of the Southwest Pyrenees Mountains. I mean, you've got gorgeous views in every direction. The culture and the history here is really amazing. This area is well known for its cheese, Osso Irati cheese, and so you have the main route that runs through the valley is called the Route de Fromage. So, you've got all of these, local farms that, produce sheep's milk cheese mostly, but there's also, cow and goat as well. And there's all of these traditions that go along with this. You have the annual transhumance, which is when the sheep and the cows and the horses make their way up the mountain for the summer to spend the summer months grazing on higher pastures, and it produces a different flavor of cheese, and they do this huge celebration around this. And then they have the annual cheese festival. So there's all these traditions and culture that really provide an authentic cultural experience. And then there's, of course, it being in the mountains, there's all kinds of sports, whether you like hiking, cycling, just a lot of different activities. And all of my friends and family that have come to visit, they are just amazed by, the beauty of this region. And it just seemed like it was such an opportunity to be able to welcome people to discover this region, because it's not as well known as other parts of France, whether it's Paris or Provence or the Alps. It's still a bit undiscovered outside of France. And so it does offer that unique experience. And I've met so many people here in the community, and it's great to be able to team up with some of those folks, like my neighbors who make cheese, go over and see how the cheese is made, or a local wine expert who comes over and does wine tastings at the chateau. Like, I thought there was such an opportunity to package these things up, invite people here, and just let them experience the beauty and wonderfulness of this area.
I want to go. It sounds amazing. I love it. I know that Jenny Dempsey, who introduced us, also said 2 weeks ago. So
yeah, she and I are in the process of planning a visit. So I can't wait to meet her in person, because she's just absolutely lovely. But yeah, I feel like I probably went on a little bit of a tangent there. I don't know if I fully answered your question, but the plan was to leverage what's here in the valley and the idea of a 14th century chateau, invite people to come, and I will design these experiences based on, whether it's around a local event or, based on what their particular interests are, and, just kind of package all of that up. So, you don't really have to think about it when you're here. I'll feed you, I'll put you up, I'll take you to the different activities, and it's all good.
how did that idea come to you, from thinking that this would be your vacation spot, right? To this is what I'm doing. I'm going to host and create these experiences.
Well, I think it was really family and friends coming to visit, just saying, "This is fantastic. you have an opportunity here. When it was time for me to open up a business, like I knew based on, what my friends and family had said about their time here, that this was going to be the opportunity. And, in my career in marketing, I did a lot of events, so I do know how to organize activities like this and, do all of the planning, make sure things run smoothly. And I've also done a ton of international travel. So I feel like as a traveler, I know what makes for a good experience, what I think it does anyway, and so with those two things in mind, I've been able to design and create these trips and experiences for people. And frankly, for the first time in my marketing career, I'm actually my own target audience. So it's really easy and fun because I'm just like, oh my gosh, this would be so much fun to do. If we bring a group here, we'll go to the market and then we'll go to the Beret Museum and then we'll go and do some wine tasting and vineyard tours and, just kind of planning it all out. It's fun. I really enjoy this. And then welcoming people here, and just sharing with them everything that I love about this area and introducing them to a lot of the people that I know here. It's just a lot of fun, and I feel like I'm supporting my community as well, which also feels good.
So can you share how do you feel? Like what's the difference in your own, I don't know, it could be energy level, it could be, how you feel, um, the state of being, from when you look at when you were working in corporate, right, in the cities, you know, um, and now that you're doing this, what's the difference?
I mean, it's a huge difference. I mean, life in a big city versus life in a village with more sheep than people. I mean, that in itself is very different. I mean, when I was working for a corporate job in Paris, Sunday nights, as with a lot of people, you dread, getting up, going to work on Monday morning and sitting in front of a laptop all week long and dealing with a lot of stuff, Now my days are much more active, like today I'm actually refinishing my basement and that this is a whole nother story, but there's a British television show that I've been participating on called Château DIY, which is where they profile chateau owners and some of their projects. Now, I've never been a DIY person, but I've become one since moving here because a lot of stuff you have to do on your own. And now that I don't have a salary, I'm very much on a budget, and so I can't call in the professionals, and so just doing projects like this. I mean, there's just something about spending my day, doing something creative and productive, and I get that sense of accomplishment. Like today, I hung up drywall on a frame that I created myself. I mean, if somebody had told me 10 years ago this is how I'd be spending my days, I never would have believed it, and all the outdoor work. So I feel like I no longer have the dread of getting up and facing some of the corporate stuff that you deal with. I am no longer sitting on my butt behind a laptop for way too many hours a day. I'm moving, I'm being creative and productive, and just having such a sense of accomplishment. Even when my little projects don't turn out well, I often have to do them 2-3 times. But I get there in the end and I'm learning so much,
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing. Um, I I was thinking there was something when you were talking and then I forgot what I was going to ask you. But can you tell us like how people can find you and follow you and connect with you?
Oh, absolutely. I have a website, chateaudegère.com, and I'm also on Facebook and Instagram.
Mhm.
So you can follow me on one of those channels or check out the website. I've got a few retreats coming up up. There's a yoga retreat in March that I'm doing with a friend of mine in Paris. She has a company called Imperfect Yoga, which is perfect for me because I am so imperfect on so many levels. And then I'm also doing a Grape Escape, which is a weekend of wine tours and wine tasting. I'm doing a French immersion program that I call French Camp, which is a 1 week course to improve your French. And then there's also the Transhumance Festival and cheese festivals that are coming up in the area. So, those are just some of the things that I have going on, and all of that information is on my website.
That is very cool. I definitely encourage anybody to check out all the options. It sounds really, really fun. That's what I think that's what we all want when we are thinking, kind of what could be an alternative, if you don't feel satisfied, if you do feel drained, if you feel like it's just not how you want to spend, many more years of your life, right? Because we spend so much time working, you just like come across as, exactly what we want. We want that aliveness. We want that joy. We want that full animation.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's hard too. It's not easy. I mean, giving up a steady salary is really hard. And it's scary as well. I am not fluent in French, and navigating all of the business structures and setup and all the things that you have to do is really hard. Then there's one surprise after another. I mean, I figured out, well into my business, that I need to be registered as a tour operator to be able to sell packaged retreats. I didn't know that. And then I had to go through that process and figure that out. So, you take the good with the bad. I mean, in general, I'm very happy, and I'm so glad that I took this leap. It's a struggle, but I kind of look at, how do I feel today versus how I felt sitting in front of a laptop at 8 p.m. having not eaten dinner yet, and I'll choose this one any day, any day.
Yeah. No, thank you so much for sharing that. Do you feel like that you're home? Do you feel like the town where you're living in, like France? Obviously, you lived in other places. You've traveled. You're from US. Do you have that sense of being home?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, the community where I live, my neighbors are just so generous and welcoming. I mean, here I am, a foreigner moving into this tiny village that's got about 200 people, and these families have lived here for generations. Like I didn't know what to expect, and my neighbors are just wonderful. And people in my community. I mean, my favorite day of the week is Saturday, going to the weekly outdoor market, because I know most of the vendors and I have a chat with them, like, oh, how's your week? This, that, and the other thing. And, it's just like I feel very much part of that community. There's a huge international community here as well. So, I do have a lot of friends that come from all over the world. And it's great to have that. So I feel like I have the best of all worlds. I feel like I hit the jackpot. I definitely feel at home here, and I hope I can continue living the dream.
Love it. Yeah, because I mean, it's a big decision. Like you said, there's a lot of unknowns. A small village, right? You could be also, right, isolated, and like you said, you don't know what the community will be, what the connections will be. That is just so amazing. I'm so, so happy for you. What would you say is your purpose, Trish?
Oh gosh, I mean, right now, I guess my purpose is, just for me personally, enjoying life and being happy. And, it's that my purpose from a business standpoint is, welcoming guests here and giving them, an amazing experience as they go and discover this beautiful corner of the world that I live. So, on both fronts, it's really about, creating happiness and positive vibes, I guess. I don't know what word I want to use to say that. that, but
course. Yeah, enjoyment and happiness. That's
yeah,
no matter what we say, that's what we ultimately want. We can overcomplicate things and make them too serious. So I love your answer.
right, right.
Love it. Is there anything that I did not ask that you'd like to share? I know we started out the conversation before we started the recording, sharing that I live in the Raleigh area, that you used to live here as well in North Carolina, which is a very, very interesting synchronicity.
Yeah, it's funny. It's a small world, huh?
And I'm originally from Latvia, which is a small country in Eastern Europe, so I made my way on the opposite side of the ocean.
Yeah, yeah. So you know what it's like to live in a foreign country and, have to navigate the cultural differences and that sort of thing. I mean, it's an experience and you get out of it what you put into it, right?
Yeah, it definitely is an experience. Yes, yes. I came here. Well, I was born in Soviet Union, so
Oh, really?
yeah, so it was a
Okay.
whole different experience.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
like 19 and yeah,
Wow.
here with really no support, nothing. It's just literally making it like you said, but kind of your experience and what you shared about like the chateau and how it happened, it's like you have to go with it and you have to
Yes.
dance and you have to have, this is why I love your lightness, is like take the weight of it out of it, take the overthinking, take out this need to know every step.
Yeah, yeah, and keep your eye out for the opportunities. I mean, you never know what, something can turn into. And, it's just, you can't wait for things to come to you all the time. I feel like I've kind of looked at, seeing things through the lens of, is this an opportunity for something interesting, exciting, or to, better myself in some way or another, and they don't all work out. When I moved to London, after 3 months, I was like, you know what, I don't want to live here anymore. It was not the right decision to move here, but I don't regret the decision. I learned from it, and I figured out a way to come back to France because that's where I decided I wanted to live. And it kind of, a little bit of, sometimes, you discover these things by having to make mistakes, and you learn from them. Even I don't want to refer to my move to London as a mistake. It wasn't. It just wasn't right for me at the time.
You tried. You don't have to wonder what if
Yeah.
you had.
Yeah. And what's the plan B? Doesn't work out. When I moved to France, oh, you don't speak the language, you don't know anybody there. And, aren't you scared? No, if it doesn't work out, I'll move back, like it, I mean, it doesn't, I don't want to make that sound like it's easy. It's still a challenge to move here, create new friends and learn the language, adapt to the culture, all these other things. But you look at it through the lens of opportunity, and as Jenny has often says, what's the best that can happen? That's how I choose to look at it. And plan B, you know, move back if it doesn't work out.
I love it. I love it. And I think that was something that, you know, that was your soul wanted to be in France, like it's not necessarily rhyme and reason, but it's kind of like your own unique journey. Just like for me, there was no rhyme or reason, like these blinders on coming to US, and there was like everything else was like did not exist. It was just like this.
You had your mind made up.
It wasn't even, it was like my soul was driving me. There was like, yeah,
Really?
like it was just like we're just going, one step, like you said, it wasn't like this whole plan, just take one step. There was just this draw,
Yeah.
and it's just like there was no overthinking. When you're 19, you're like, we're going.
Yeah, yeah. And how did you end up in Raleigh?
So I came like to North Carolina for a summer exchange program to a beach town. And then I ended up transferring to college here in the mountains, like a small private school. And then, when we graduated, the biggest city was Charlotte, that was the closest. So I moved to Charlotte and then ended up moving to Raleigh like a few years after.
Okay. Okay. What beach town, just out of curiosity?
Topsail Beach.
Oh, I know that well.
Really? I mean, we talked about how things have changed and how commercialized and how they've grown. Topsail Beach has grown like big time. Have you? So you've been, yeah?
Oh yeah, when I lived in Raleigh, we would do, just beach road trips, with me, some of my friends and I, we would go there quite often. So
Yeah.
lots of memories.
Small world. Small world.
Yeah.
Now I'll just have to go to. I'll have to travel to your chateau when I'm in
Oh,
Europe. Maybe who knows? There can be a
you are
retreat or an event, and
absolutely, you are more than welcome to come for a visit. I would love to welcome you here.
thank you. I've been to Paris several times, and then I've been to where is it? Like Airbus is headquartered.
Oh, Toulouse.
Yes, I've been to Toulouse.
Yeah, Toulouse is about 2.5 hours from here.
Yeah, yeah. So next will be the village where they make cheese and
I'll
visit
introduce you
chateau. It
to some
sounds
neighbors.
lovely. I love
Best
nature.
cheese
I
in the
love
world.
mountains.
Yeah. Oh, good. Then yeah, you'll love it here. If you like nature, mountains, and cheese, this is the place to go.
Yeah, I'm not a big city person for too long. It's
Yeah, I
maybe
used to be when I was like, early in my traveling. I, was all about going to the big cities and just kind of seeing the big sights. But as I got a little bit older and actually got more into hiking, I was really more interested in those, offbeat destinations where, you're doing more on foot than you are, anything else. So I prefer those experiences now, being out in nature.
I love that. What would you say to somebody who is in corporate, in a job, or in a situation where they know, like on the external, right? They're getting the paycheck. What this world will tell you is the security, right? All the trappings. But they feel like something's missing, but they don't know what to start. What would be that thing that would fulfill them?
Mm.
What advice would you have?
I would say just look for the opportunities, and look at things that you don't necessarily think is an opportunity as an opportunity. I never intended to buy a chateau. I never intended to be an entrepreneur, but here I am. It was just kind of these twists of fate and circumstance, and you never know, a random comment from a friend about you can buy a chateau for the price of that apartment. I mean, that was just like, made me think, you never know what's going to come up in conversation or, whatever that could, just kind of pique your interest. And who knows where, you just pull on that thread a little bit and see, is this going in a direction that might be interesting for me? You just don't know where those opportunities are going to be. So you just always have to be open to them.
I love that. What has helped you to keep an open mind, an open heart, because you have to have that openness to life, and so often I see, and what can happen is that, like, as you go into your 30s, 40s, that the life and kind of the disappointments, the different situations that we go through can close people's hearts and close their minds. So, what has helped you to remain so bubbly and really open minded?
Honestly, I don't know how to answer that. I mean, I think I, I just like being more positive than negative, like I like positive energy and surrounding myself with people that give me positive energy and creating it myself because negativity just kind of, brings you down. So I think I just prefer to go through life more positively. I don't really know what's created that other than just I feel better when I'm feeling positive.
love that. And is there anything that I didn't ask that you'd like to leave us with or share?
I can't think of anything right now. Of course, once we finish, I'll think of something. But right now, I feel like we covered a lot of ground, and it's been such a joy talking with you. And I really do hope to meet you in person one day.
Thank you so much, Trish. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for sharing this possibility, just like you said with your friend, said that um, your example, your story, keep sharing it because it can mean and open that door for someone else. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. It was great talking with you.